What is up, my people? Welcome to another one. Today we're going to talk about werewolves or Wolfman. Or are they the same? Actually, we're going to talk about my top 3 picks. Or not top 3, top 5 picks of werewolf and Wolfman movies. I am going to be driving as well, so if you guys don't like that, I don't know what to tell you. I'm a bit of a traveler, kind of, sort of. And but before we get started with my list, I wanted to talk about, because there's going to be some of them are going to be Wolfman, and some of them are going to be werewolves. And I knew there was a difference because, like, some of the movies that I was going to pick out, some of them said Wolfman, some of them said werewolves, and the difference between them. And I kind of knew the difference between them, but I needed, like, something more, I guess, professional, or, I don't know, something that explained it better, I guess. And so I went to Google, and because Google has AI now, which in my opinion, AI is just like Google, but it just talks to you like a person. Basically, it's what I've noticed. And so pretty much Google says that there's a couple of differences in the way they look, and in kind of the what they are in a way, and I think the most ancient one is probably, because werewolf really just means wolfman. That's really what it means. So I think that's it. It's from an ancient Celtic word or something like that. So it's basically the same thing. But in modern lore, I think it's where they separate it a little bit more, and there is a bit of a difference. Now, if you can see here in this picture, you got a werewolf on one side and you got a wolfman on the other side, and it kind of tells you, what their stats are or whatever. There's a graphic that I asked ChatGPT to make for me. It kind of looks okay, I guess. And basically, what it says in Google is that the Wolfman is kind of like a human that is turning into a wolf, but still maintains, human traits or primate, traits, like its nose and its mouth. It still looks like a primate. But as you can see, he still got the pointy ears, kind of like he's kind of turning into a werewolf. And the way Google explains it is that it's a werewolf that hasn't fully turned into its full form, right? And a werewolf, which is the one on the right here, is just pretty much like a giant bipedal wolf. It pretty much, has gone full wolf mode, but it's bipedal, and it could walk on his hind legs and chase you down, and it could also walk on all fours. So that's pretty much the difference, right? That's pretty much the difference between both of these, except for one thing, is that the werewolf, which is the one on the right that looks more like a wolf, he can't really control his emotions. He's not very smart, and he's pretty much the berserker of the monster world, the monster world, where he's bigger, by the way. He's about 7 feet tall or taller. He's wider, he's stronger, he's faster, he's more wild, he's uncontrollable. He's pretty much like the Hulk. So you can't really do much about it, but just wait till the moon, till it becomes daylight, or kill him with a silver bullet. Now, the silver bullet thing is actually, myth. Well, it's all myth, right? But it's actually a new myth that was invented for the modern werewolf. But in the past, in the ancient days when they actually believed in werewolves, you had to burn them or cut their head off. It was harder to kill, to be honest with you, because you gotta either burn them, right? So torch them with something, or cut their head off. And that's what the only solution was to killing the werewolf, which is crazy, because yeah, think about it. These guys are extremely fast. They're extremely strong. They're berserkers, right? So they you can't really reason with them. You can't trick them or do anything like that, because they're like focused on killing. And so the only thing you could do is cut their heads off or burn them, which is that's pretty hard if you think about it. But of course, later they said there was a silver bullet was the main way to kill him. Now, when it comes to Wolfman, Wolfman is not, he hasn't fully lost his humanity, and he hasn't fully lost its ability to think or its ability to reason. So he still maintains, those human traits and those. He's basically he can still control himself somewhat, and he could still think. He could still reason, and you could still even talk to it or even seduce it, because a lot of times you're gonna see Wolfman, and sometimes werewolves, but mainly Wolfman. There's always a female involved that kind of tames the beast or whatever. And sometimes it's successful, sometimes it's not. So it just depends. But my point is that there's a possibility of taming that beast, or that it could even be good. According to Google. Of course, I was kind of poking at Google and its AI. I think it's called Gemini. To kind of give me a reason for Wolfman to be a good guy, because I don't know, I just have this story in my head, and I'm gonna talk about it later, but it's a story about werewolves and Wolfman and stuff like that. Another interesting trait about Wolfman and just werewolves in general, just bunching both of these two together, because they're pretty much the same thing. But I just feel like I said, Wolfman is kind of like the early stages of becoming a full werewolf, in my opinion. But one of the interesting things about it is another interesting thing about this is that they are somehow sworn enemies of vampires, right? Now, according to lore, this wasn't always the case. This is more of a modern take on the werewolf and the vampire. A lot of times, werewolves and vampires were one and the same. Okay, but there was two events that changed that narrative of werewolves and vampires being one and the same. And that event was, one of them was an old guy. I forgot. I think his name was Theo or Theist. And he confesses that he is a werewolf. Right? That he's a werewolf, and that he turns into a werewolf. But here's the twist: that he's not the only one. And not only is he not the only one, but that they are on the side of the good guys, meaning they are actually doing it for God. and he calls himself a hound of God, or that he's a hound of God, and he transforms and protects the earth from the demons that are in hell or whatever. And I think once a year he goes down to hell to fight demons and and protect the humans from the demons that are trying to get him, or some shit like that. It was some crazy shit that he said. And mind you, this was before Hollywood or anything like that. This was some shit. This was some real shit that some old guy said when interrogated or whatever. Now, the thing you got to understand also, and I don't know if this was the case with this guy, is that these guys were tortured to confess. A lot of times they were tortured and they would confess some stuff that weren't even real. Now, if you know anything about torture, is that you're going to say whatever. Just as long as the pain stops, you're just going to say whatever. And if they're saying you're a witch and they're saying that you could turn into whatever, then you're going to say that, but you're going to be like, hey, but guess what? I'm one of the good guys. So that very well could be the case. But my point is this. This is one of the reasons why werewolves kind of became the good guys, or the sworn enemies of the vampires. And then after that, the other reason that happened was because of Hollywood. Straight up Hollywood just decided to just because they like to do contrast and power dynamics, different types of power dynamics and differences between monsters. And since the werewolf was always like uncontrollable and more connected to nature, and the vampire was more, I guess, smarter and more of an aristocrat type of guy. Usually he's a count or some kind of lord. And the werewolf is usually this hobo guy who's just wandering around in the woods. And so the differences between those, Hollywood thought that it was a good idea to pin them up against each other and make them like sworn enemies or whatever. So it's more of a modern take, but those are the two main reasons why the werewolf is constantly being shown as the sworn enemy of the vampire. But it just got my attention, and because I went down this rabbit hole of like investigating werewolves, because I had a dream, by the way, that I was a werewolf. So because of that, I went into this whole rabbit hole of investigating werewolves and the actual accounts of people seeing werewolves. Even in modern days, people are still seeing werewolves. Some people call them dog men and stuff like that. So, and the psychological aspects of it too. There's people that actually believe that they're turning into werewolves or other animals. It's called lycanthropy, which is a true psychological disease that attacks the brain and makes people believe that they're turning into an animal. And that's where the word lycan comes from. Actually, it comes from another place, from Greek mythology. I forgot the actual Greek mythology, where I think there's a guy who feeds Zeus dog meat or something like that, and then Zeus gets mad at him and he turns him into a wolf man, and that was the first lycan. And when it comes to the vampires, the first vampire was Dracula, I believe. And the story with him is that he's Cain. That's the whole story, is that Cain, was cursed. And his curse was to have long fangs and to live forever. And everywhere he went, people would recognize him because he had those long ass fangs. Oh, that's the rumor. I'm not sure if it's still, if that's the origins of the vampire, but both of those, one of them is rooted in biblical text, and another one is rooted in Greek mythology. So there you go. But So that brings me to a little kind of like theory that I have, when it comes to werewolves, or not a theory, but like kind of like a story that's rooted in like, think, for example, think Assassin's Creed, right? Assassin's Creed is a video game that shows you a story that's rooted in not necessarily facts, but rooted in historical events. And so this is just think of this. Just think about it. You know, there's an old guy being brought into trial. A period piece, you could say. And this is based on Theus, or whatever his name is, Theus or Theo or something like that. And he's being brought to trial, and they say, you know, hey, we're here to question, you know, or here to interrogate you, you know, for the crime of witchcraft. Do you comply or whatever? He says, I am a lichen. Right? He says, I am a lichen, but I am on the side of good. I am a hound of God or whatever. And everybody's like, oh my God, he's a blasphemer or whatever. And then he starts transforming in front of everybody. Right? And then it starts going into this, the priest, before he transforms, I mean, not the priest, the judge, before he transforms, he kind of puts a stop to it. And you know, puts him back into prison. And the thing is that there's this whole conspiracy where the church is bringing in these people and torturing them so that they could turn into werewolves. Right now, where am I getting this? It's a lot of different things actually, going into this kind of like a story that I'm making up. But just imagine this. Imagine that the church, the Catholic Church, in order to fight evil, which at the time would be mainly vampires. Let's just say that they were fighting vampires. You know, similar to the movie Priest. I don't know if you guys remember Priest, where the Catholic Church takes it upon themselves to fight vampires, right? To extinguish vampires. So, what if they develop this program to develop super soldiers? And these super soldiers are pretty much werewolves. And werewolves are the ultimate weapon against these vampires. But in order for them to create these vampires, they have to do a couple of things. Number one, they have to find humans with psychic capacities, right? And they have to have the right psychic capacity, because there's different, you know, there's going to be different types in my storyline. But once they find them, they have to torture them and put them through 3 torturous rituals that would allow them to, towards the end, turn them into werewolves. Okay, so basically the church isn't good guys either. These werewolves are really victims of a war that's been going on between the church and the vampires. So anyways, a lot of these victims that are being tortured by the church, they don't survive. Some of them die because they can't handle the torture. Some of them turn into wolfmen, which you could reason with, and they could transform at will. And you know, they have different abilities. But some of them go berserker, and they go full werewolf, and you can't really control them. But all of this is being done by the church or whatever, by the Catholic Church, by a secret sect within the Catholic Church, that um does this to people. So it's interesting story that I came up with, because the reason I was thinking about this is because there's really not very good um storytelling when it comes to werewolves. Usually most of the good storytelling and a lot of the good movies come from the vampire side. Um but on the werewolf side, it's kind of up in the air. I had to look up the differences between these two because it was so obscure and there wasn't a lot of information about it. And the lore behind werewolves isn't that developed, but I think this would be a good one. One of the good ones that they have out there is Teen Wolf, which I haven't really checked out. I have to check out because I heard that the power scaling is good, and the lore behind what they're doing there, the developing there is pretty good too. So I'm gonna have to check that out. But this is, I think, a good storyline that people should probably try to steal from me, I guess. Um, and I got it from actual events, actually. Like for example, MK Ultra. Okay, MK Ultra. If you look MK Ultra up, it's pretty much they're trying to either bring psychic phenomena from people or control people, right? And the way they do it is they torture these people. And you look at the stuff that they were doing in MK Ultra, and then you start looking up where they got these ideas from, and you start looking at the things that the Aztec priest used to do, the Egyptian priest used to do. All of these priests that wanted to get contact with these higher beings, and they wanted to control, their emperors, kind of like Nigerian candidates. They used to do this kind of stuff, right? And you put that in connected to the rumors of super soldiers, and how they wanted to control um humans to do what they want them to do. I mean, look up where ISIS comes from, and you'll realize that they were doing the same thing to those guys, and they're probably, that's what they are. They're super soldiers created by the American government. Now, having all of this together, we could do that same stuff with these werewolves, the story of these werewolves, and kind of use that same I guess storytelling, or use that within the storytelling of this. But anyways, that's gonna be all for today, guys. And on the next video, I'm gonna show my top 5 werewolf movies. So yeah, stay tuned for that.